Good evening.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
How was your trip?
Uh, it was all right. Um, it was a work trip. It was for a meeting Wednesday afternoon. Um, Flying there was like the last flight in, and the leg from Birmingham to Atlanta was I don't know why, but it was late leaving, like pretty late leaving, and almost like I think was like 5 minutes away from missing uh, the leg from Atlanta to Chicago. So, but otherwise, it was a really fun trip. Um, um, Tuesday was my birthday, and Tuesday night, Becca took me out to dinner, and we went and watched a movie at the top of a hotel. We saw Rush Hour. It was a lot of fun. I remember at some point in time watching Rush Hour on VHS, and I might not have been in high school because that movie didn't come out until '98. But I remember disliking it because I dislike Chris Tucker, and I remember also really disliking Chris Tucker in The Fifth Element. But rewatching Rush Hour, I really enjoyed it. It's a it's a really easily rewatchable '90s movie. You know, not all of them are. Um, I don't like Adam Sandler movies or actually, I like Adam Sandler movies, but they're not as rewatchable as Rush Hour was.
I can see that. I didn't have any issues with Tucker at the time. I just kind of took him as an overactor to an extent. You know, the
Yeah.
exaggerated
Oh, for sure.
performance. Kind of like Kevin Hart can be at times. Like there's that style of
Kevin Hart is the
comedy.
new Chris Tucker.
Yeah.
I like Chris Tucker. Well, I don't know if I like him better, but
I
he's certainly an overactor.
Yeah, I kind of like Kevin Hart better only because of his interplay with other people off screen that I've seen. You know, like it's really tough to distinguish between his character and who he is and the relationship with Dwayne Johnson, whether it's in character or not in character. And I like that blending of you can't really distinguish between the character and the person.
Yeah. So I think Vince Vaughn is a little bit like that because let me maybe he's not like that, but he's very one dimensional. Don't think I've seen a like I like when it's the right movie, like Wedding Crashers, fantastic. You know, he's Vince Vaughn at his best, but I don't think I've ever seen him play a role that's not like that, like the fast talking, verbal diarrhea. Um, I don't know what other, I don't know how to I don't know how to button that up, but um,
I mean, they certainly follow. I don't know that I've seen him in another role, but it feels like I have at some point seen something that showcased a little more range than I expected. Could I point to it? No. uh,
well, like Adam Sandler did the same. You know, it was him and his buddies and doing the same movie, every movie, just different details. And you could tell it was like, it was basically what's going on in Adam Sandler's life because it showed up in his movies. You know, Billy Madison didn't give a, you know, he just like was goofing around and he's like, well, let me try to, you know, do something of like minimal accomplishment, you know, graduate high school again. And, and go a few movies, you know, in that movie he just wants, you know, he just ends up with a girlfriend. A few movies later, you know, Big Daddy, I think that's a no, The Wedding Singer is the first one where he gets married. And a few, you know, so it goes on and then he, like in 2001 he did Punch Drunk, or 2002 he did Punch Drunk Love, and that was a massive departure from the previous roles that he had done. And it's like, oh, okay, he does have range. Same thing, and then I can't think of another movie where he's not doing the same thing. But Uncut, until he did Uncut Gems, which was a movie I really liked.
Jim Carrey did kind of a similar thing as
Yes.
well. I think it just kind of happens with that type of actor. You know, they make their name on the comedy circuit and kind of embrace that for a bit until they find a role that they want to try to do something different.
Right, right. I think I want to say maybe Adam Sandler went to NYU. Tisch, he might have gone to Tisch, their acting school, but I don't recall. But he's no slouch. He just did movies that he wanted to do. He because he could. He made a name for himself in stand up and SNL, and then went on to start making movies. I tried watching his first movie. I thought it was Billy Madison, but he did one before that called I keep wanting to say Down Periscope, but that's a Kelsey Grammer movie. It's a different movie, but it's not good. It was. I don't think I finished it. Like I'm usually one. Yeah, like I'll watch bad movies, but I think it was relatively unwatchable. Um,
Yeah, it takes a lot for me to turn off a movie. So I might have to go look it up again.
I did turn it off. I'm going to do some real time follow up and tell you exactly what that movie was, but it was not easy.
You mentioned Down Periscope. I know that wasn't it, but I forgot about that movie for a bit. I love that film.
Oh my goodness me. I didn't realize Adam Sandler was born the day before me. His birthday is September 9th. I
I
had
didn't
no
either.
idea. I didn't realize that. Um, I was going to say, I share a birthday with, I can't remember the actor's name. He was in Rush Hour. Um, he passed away. I think he was like 60 years older than me. No, yeah, 50 years older than me. Um, Philip Baker Hall might be his name. I also share a birthday with, I'm trying to think of the guy's name. It's not Colin Firth. No, yes, Colin Firth. I share a birthday with him as well. He's 21 years older than me.
I know I've looked it up before, but I couldn't tell you who I share a birthday with other than me.
My
Um,
mom is exactly 1 year older than Tom Hanks.
nice.
Yeah. So I did all of this vamping to till I could find the movie it was called Going Overboard, and that was his. So his first like on screen appearance, he was in 4 episodes of The Cosby Show. Then he did Going Overboard, and then he did some small. Did some small things here and there. He was in Coneheads, and I don't know when he actually got on to SNL, but it was the early '90s. But Going Overboard was pretty unwatchable.
I had never even heard of it.
It's not like it's got no names in there. Billy Bob Thornton is in there. Billy Zane is in there. So it's not just the only person that you would recognize is Adam Sandler. There's a few other people, but folks that end up in others of other movies of his small parts. But yeah, how's your week been?
It's been pretty good. I don't know, it's been hectic. I know I mentioned it. I've been putting together the script and shooting for the course that I'm putting together. And I've had to do a lot of back and forth trying to figure out where to actually film bits and pieces. Just because I didn't really have a set here. And so I rectified that by staging the area to the left of the desk with the bookcases, where I rearranged what books would appear and, making it actually somewhat applicable to potential content. So I get the first 2 modules filmed and edited. I need to get the third one done, and then I can do kind of a pre-launch and like pre-order kind of thing, and then have the rest of the course available sometime in November. So like everything be available October 1st, and then price go up and full course be available sometime in November. That's the plan anyway. But I've
Yeah,
been,
then you in
go
time
ahead.
for Christmas.
Yeah, hopefully. But I've been juggling that with, I taught the first class solo at the gym today,
Oh,
getting ready for competition next week, some networking events that I've been attending. It's just been a lot of disparate things that feel like they're taking up a lot of time. And then soccer season started back on top of it all. So trying to wrangle emails and notifications and coaching and prep for our first get match being after this coming weekend after just 2 practices. So,
oh wow,
or 3 practices. We had 1 last week. So yeah,
so this weekend you have your first match.
Yeah, Saturday.
Yeah, Luke is the same. He's had like 4 practices, and his first match is Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I expected. Last fall was kind of like where it was a flurry of activity, so I knew this week was just going to be really messed up on trying to get much of anything done, and so I knew I really should focus on my stuff other than networking, because it was going to be constant distractions, and I can at least maintain kind of cohesive thought on like the script writing and all, whereas if I'm doing any editing or anything else for not my project, I've got to kind of reset and start over, and it just mentally it's not a game to play.
Yeah.
But thankfully everything will be kind of settled down again after this week. I mean, still have a lot going on, but it won't be the first week and a half to 2 weeks of soccer season just throws a wrench in everything.
I can see that. So, did you watch Apple's event?
Sort of. I did not watch any of it real time. I kind of glanced at notifications over the course of the afternoon. I did watch pieces that I felt I wanted to watch in the evening, thanks to the chapters that they embed in the stream. So I watched the information about the watch, and I pseudo-watched the iPhone 16 just to kind of get the feel for what they were going to talk about that would translate to the Pro model, and then I watched the iPhone 16 Pro. So if there was anything that wasn't in those pieces, I missed it.
Gotcha. I noticed that there were a number of things that there were no substantial hardware updates
Across the lineup, yeah.
Yeah.
Though,
I
would say the one thing that might end up being substantial is the camera control button across the iPhone range, but that may or may not actually be substantial. That's going to depend a lot on individual workflows and use cases.
I think it'll be a substantial. I don't think it's a reason to upgrade, but I think it'll be something that people that get it will use. And I'm glad they put it on the iPhone 16 because I don't know, it seems like a feature that it's good for. I don't think it's a feature that should be used to,
It's not a distinguishing pro feature.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, words are not my friend right now.
I knew what you were getting at, and I agree. Like I really do like seeing things like that are applicable across the lineup, and not just we're going to try to shepherd you into
the
top tier.
Phone. Yeah. And whereas, well, see, if you think about iPhone, if you think about in Apple parlance, Pro being deluxe, again, not a concept, but something that John Gruber pointed out on some episode of the talk show, and probably in his writing on Daring Fireball. It starts to make sense. Okay, yeah, that could be a feature, but I'm glad they didn't do that this time. Last year they did that with the action button, and I think that's fine because I don't think the action button is as much. I didn't use it for a year. Like I literally didn't. Yeah, I mean, I looked at like what can I do here, and I was like, the only thing I can think that I would do is maybe create a shortcut, and I didn't go about doing that until last week. So I now for the first time I'm using the action button on my phone.
Yeah, I still don't use it.
Think of a shortcut that you really like, and there you go. I did it. I did it. I have it to unlock my door, so
that
I
makes
can
sense.
easily walk in. That's kind of a nice thing. So,
I It's not that I dislike the idea at all. It's just that with the options that are present, I just don't have a need for anything specific at the moment. And, in all honesty, if I dove deeper into shortcuts, I could probably find a number of things that would be really nice to do. I it, I just don't have a pressing need to figure it out. It's a solution that I don't have a specific problem for.
I totally understand because the reason I ended up doing these, the reason I ended up, creating a shortcut for to use to specifically to assign to the action button was because I was like, here's this button, here's a solution to a problem I don't have right now. What's the solution going to be? Like I sat down and I made a new problem of trying to figure out what this solution was going to be, and that's how I ended up on there. And you know what? Sometimes I forget. Not sometimes. A lot of times I forget to use it. So, but when I do use it and it does work, it's really nice. But sometimes, and I don't know if this is an issue with the level lock or home, Apple Home kit stuff. So, but sometimes it's a little bit slow or too slow, and sometimes I don't wait long enough for it to work. I mean, and when I say don't wait long enough, it's been 30 seconds, and that's if the keypad on my that I use with level lock if it took 30 seconds. I would have sent it back. I would have said, this is defective. And if they said, no, it's not defective, I would have said, I don't like it. And I would have sent it back.
Yeah, so there are a lot of things with HomeKit that I don't like. And part of it is responsiveness if you're not essentially operating from whatever is the primary driving hub in the home, it seems. And I don't even know that that's an accurate statement because a lot of things, let me back up. Like the way things are set up in the house, I have the Apple TVs all set to act as hubs for HomeKit. In theory, that means if I trigger something from the Apple TV, it should be as instantaneous as possible. But that's not always the case. And so, to me, HomeKit has an issue in how it handles triggering events, regardless of how it's done. Whether it's local, whether it's via remote connection, anything else doesn't matter. There is something inherently flawed in HomeKit that makes it less responsive than using a third-party manufacturer's app with their devices. But what I like about HomeKit is that it aggregates all of those disparate devices into a simple single interface that does normally work well for me. So it's kind of a toss-up, and it makes me wonder if the issue is kind of similar to Microsoft's problems with Windows trying to work with multiple vendors and manufacturers and everything and try to be unilaterally accessible, except the big differentiator here is that Apple requires specific adherence to standards and protocols and everything for HomeKit compliance. And if they're requiring that, then why is there even a question of a problem? You know what I mean? It's boggling that this exists, but it does apparently exist.
So I expect that there is a I don't know.
Well, the whole point of adopting the Matter specification was supposed to improve speed and reliability of HomeKit automations and triggering for devices that use that specification.
Well, see, I don't know if any of my devices use that.
Well, I know a number of mine do, and they still act the same way as they did prior to Matter adoption.
Fair enough. Where I was going to go with this is that things that Apple does that don't get, or that they might classify as a hobby, can languish.
Yes. I mean, All right, we're gonna dive a little bit deeper on this one. So we've talked about like the HDMI, home theater control, all that stuff as well with the Apple TV.
See, it's like, is that a languishing issue? Again, same thing with if it's in the HomeKit. Is HomeKit languishing, or is it there's a standard, but there's a lot of different ways to interpret the standard, and not everybody does it the same.
And I think the latter there is definitively the problem.
So how do you solve? I mean, but see, we don't see as far as I can tell, I don't see any issues like this with USB-C, and that is a standard, and that is something that Apple helped implement. It's not theirs, but I know that they heavily influenced it.
And I think the difference is that like USB-C standards are just more accurate in their implementation, or more accurate may not be the right word, more specific in their implementation than a lot of the stuff like HDMI control, or God, what all are the acronyms? You've got HDCP, you've got ARC, eARC, I don't even remember all the other ones, but like you have all of these different specifications that operate over the same connection, and I think that's where the problem happens. Whereas USB-C as a standard has just been expanded upon with multiple iterations. So you have your core communication standard, and you've added feature sets on top of it. Whereas your home theater stuff has had multiple different iterations and interpretations of implementation, because the standards don't say very explicitly, this does this and this does this, and then we expanded by adding this. Instead, it's, well, you can do HDCP over HDMI, or you can do ARC over HDMI, or you can do eARC over HDMI, or you can do ARC/eARC over HDMI, or you can do all three, or whatever the other ones are. And I think that's where it gets problematic.
Yeah, I can see that being problematic. And it just kind of makes me think, it's like, can you guys put a Thunderbolt connection on the TV so that we can get Apple to start manufacturing Apple TVs with Thunderbolt as the video output?
I have no doubt that you could.
I know you could, but nobody's doing it.
Right. And I have no doubt that it's because the manufacturers of the TVs don't want to pay whatever licensing fees.
Oh, of course. But then it's like, okay, so what about USB-C? Because you can do audio and video over USB. I don't know. Can you do Yeah, you can do 4K over. You can do higher. You can do 6K over. Or is that some Thunderbolt? I don't know.
I know you can do 4K over USB-C. I don't. I'd have to go back and look at the bandwidth requirements for.
That solves the problem because the Apple TV only outputs to 4K. So problem solved. Let's do it over USB-C.
All that to say that my experiment at home with changing a number of different things, and I don't even know if I went into all the details yet. Actually,
no, I don't think you.
So I know we talked about, I finally decided to get a TV that I wanted to get. When I did that, I decided I would try replacing the receiver upstairs with the same manufacturer, same year model implementation, just different model itself receiver as the one I was using downstairs. So I've got two different receivers as far as model numbers go, but they're the same manufacturer implementation year, just two different models, because downstairs in the basement I don't need the bells and whistles that I would use upstairs. Real minimal differences. So I have two different Apple TVs connected to these two disparate receivers, two different speaker configurations, but it's the same implementation of control and everything else. So now the only difference is manufacturer of TV between upstairs and downstairs, because I replaced the TV upstairs. Since making those changes, I have not experienced the odd fluctuations in Apple TV control of sound output to the receiver that I was experiencing before. So maybe there's something to unifying the manufacturer of devices connected in order to have same implementations if you are syncing settings between Apple TV devices. We'll see if this continues. I mean, I may experience a problem in a week or two. Who knows? Um, but theoretically, based on usage up to this point, the oddities where all of a sudden the Apple TV would just forget that it can control volume have ceased. It's been reliably consistent for a change, and I haven't experienced any other random issues. So that would lend further credence to the different types of implementation being a sticking point for a synchronized settings device to control and interpret and work with type thing.
As you were saying that, I thought, especially if you're using a device from the same manufacturer. So I have thoughts on this, and I'm glad you're finding success in these things. But it's just, again, same sort of like, especially when you buy from the same parent company, should work a lot better. Maybe.
I would agree. And I did. So I had a Yamaha receiver upstairs. I had a Marantz receiver downstairs. Those are two different parent companies as well. But they're also from different decades as far as implementation of standards and everything go. The Yamaha had been quite a bit older by the point that we bought this house and moved in, and I bought the receiver for downstairs. So I do, while I find it problematic that these should all be adhering to the same standards for control, I do also recognize that technically the newer receiver that was downstairs was implementing a slightly different protocol because it was EARC capable, whereas the Yamaha I don't think was. I think it was only HDCP capable. So I can acknowledge that there are nuances there, but at the same time, as a typical end user, I shouldn't have to understand those nuances. Like if you're telling me the device can control another device over the HDMI cable, I shouldn't have to know what those standards are. It's the same fucking cable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I didn't change any cables. I didn't change anything else. I changed the device. And while I, as a tech enthusiast, I can appreciate the differences. As an end user, that shouldn't matter to me. And so there's still, to me, a massive problem with implementation if every so often, just because I'm using two different devices in two different rooms, the Apple TV quits being able to control a device. That's still a problem that should not exist. How you solve it is, of course, not something I need to be able to answer. That's for other engineers to do. But that's, to me, that existing as a problem in implementation, both on Apple and on the individual component manufacturers.
Yeah, I'm okay. If in the specs somebody says, okay, you want to be able to like do this. Okay, you need to have. We're all saying you'll get this feature set if you are buying things that meet this standard, and even including it's like you need to have 2.2 HDMI cable, and seeing the back end of certain things, it's like I'm understanding a bit better why this shit doesn't work, and so it all has to do with. Well, this, it all has to, in the case of HDMI, it looks, it seems like I assume there's a consortium that comes together to agree upon these things, and it's just not doing a great job. Whereas the consortium that does USB-C, they implemented it in a certain way that they are doing a much better job. The benefit that USB-C has is that it's a lot newer. It's only 10 years old, whereas HDMI is at least twice as old.
I don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty certain it's the same consortium.
Oh, well, then maybe the age has something to do with it.
Well, I think
and
it's
in that they're trying to do something with HDMI that they haven't been able, that they didn't have the foresight of saying, oh, we want to be able to do this. But I could be totally wrong, and it just didn't work.
I also think it depends a lot on who's involved in the process, because I could see, if you think about the evolution of USB and how manufacturers were really vested in backwards compatibility for obvious reasons, I'm not so sure you had the same investment from a manufacturer standpoint in something like HDMI, where I could very much see the different manufacturers involved saying, well, that was a decade ago. The technology has changed drastically. We're okay if it's not necessarily backwards compatible in order to achieve this feature set. And that could very well be an answer as well. It's funny because it's not like I have a grudge against any manufacturer for these HDMI related problems either. Like, I do understand there are so many manufacturers involved and so many different combinations involved that there are bound to be problems because you have a desire to implement different things because of different technologies involved with the construction of the device themselves, right? Like, if you think about let's just take TVs as the example. If you think about the wide range of what a TV can display and how much bandwidth is associated with that, it's perfectly feasible to say, well, if you have RTV, you have to have something capable of pushing this particular signal to it, which means you have to have a cable signal or cable capable of processing or delivering that signal without a problem. And the only way we can ensure that is to say, well, it's got to be before or manufactured later than, say, 2010, over a decade ago. That makes sense. It sucks as an end user if you bought HDMI cables back in 2000 trying to future-proof. But there's a difference between that and a willingness to ignore standards or implement standards in a way that's different from everybody else. And I'm not so sure that it's malicious implementation of standards, for lack of better phrasing, as much as it is, well, they left it open to manufacturer discretion on whether I use this signaling method or this channel or whatever. My terminology could be completely off. But you get the idea, where if the standard itself allows the manufacturer to use a certain range of something at manufacturer discretion, well, then that's just a failure of the standard to make it easy for the consumer. It's not a failure of the manufacturer to implement the standard. And I think that's where we are with the home theater side of things, as opposed to USB-C, where I think with USB-C, the manufacturers had a vested interest in making it as streamlined and useful for the consumer as possible, because it lowers technical support costs as well. And so it was more stringently defined about how to implement.
So some of the things I thought about as you were saying that, some of the thoughts I had ran through my mind were just along the lines of, okay, let's say, especially if you buy a receiver and a television from the same manufacturer, there should, absolutely be like, you buy this receiver with, this model receiver with these model TVs, guaranteed to work. If it doesn't work, there's a problem, and we'll troubleshoot it or whatever. That to me, I don't think that's an unreasonable expectation.
I would take it a step further. I would say if you
Please.
ever buy a TV and receiver from the same manufacturer, regardless of whether it's a specific range of models, anything that manufacturer has ever produced should work with anything else that manufacturer has ever produced,
Uh,
assuming
the
the connectivity is correct.
Yeah, I was gonna say the only. Yeah, I was gonna say the only exception I would accept there. I would agree with you on that. And the exception that I would have there is, obviously, you're not gonna get a Trinitron TV from 2000, from the 90s to work with a receiver, because it doesn't have HDMI. But even if even if had a Sony Vega TV in 2005, I wouldn't fault Sony for like, okay, today's receiver isn't, it's not going to have this specific feature, it won't control the volume. Well, the Sony remote should control the volume, but through IR at least. But I wouldn't fault them if it didn't control it through CEC, because maybe there's sometimes there are hardware limitations that um, uh, exist. So for example, if you bought an iPhone 15 less than a year ago, you will not be able to experience Apple Intelligence, because there's not enough RAM on your phone.
Yeah, I have no problem with a hardware limitation causing you to cut features as you progress, a line. So I would agree with that. I think the better example from your use case would be if you had, like on a Sony Vega or even a Trinitron. At a certain point, you would expect whatever connectivity between a receiver and that device to finally be phased out in favor of a new connection method. And that would be equivalent to the same thing you're talking about with the iPhone, where hardware-wise, it requires a specific minimum requirement that this particular model just doesn't meet. In the case of the Sony example, we're talking about a physical connection, but it could also be a specific chip for decoding signal that was eventually replaced with a better thing that just didn't have support for that. Um, there are evolutions to technology that can certainly explain problems from the same manufacturer with an older device working with a newer device.
I think I was going to say the example I gave with the iPhone 15 was a bit tongue in cheek, because that's a problem because Apple didn't, when they were planning the iPhone 15 a few years ago, they didn't have the foresight to put in enough RAM to run, a large language model on device. And so I was hoping you would catch that.
Well,
But,
I mean, I agree and I understand why it's there, but I also disagree. Only because there's a difference between planning for known feature sets and what those feature sets require, and planning for software enhanced feature sets that could be difficult to nail down. And that's just an example where I would tend to give the benefit of the doubt, where they're walking a line between cost. Well, this part would be somewhat tongue-in-cheek, because
yeah,
cost shouldn't really.
again, it's
Talking about memory, like an Apple, like cost is an asinine argument anyway. But
I was just gonna say I agree with you to the extent that until we get to the point, we know that Apple is being stingy with their memory.
yeah, and
But me, I will say, like, I never felt like my phone ever in any of the iPhones I ever owned. I don't think that I'd ever say, I really think my phone needs more RAM.
yeah, I certainly wouldn't.
Like I've never thought that. When storage was, storage. I was just thinking about this 10 years ago. The storage, like the base storage model, was 16 gigabytes. It's crazy.
And it took forever for that to increase.
Yeah. So anyway, I think a better example, maybe even a better example of like where I think, expect a certain backwards compatibility for a short period of time is video game consoles. when you go from one generation to the next, I can remember the Xbox to Xbox 360, there was there were some games that had backwards compatibility on the first revision of the Xbox 360. Not a lot of games, and I think between the PlayStation and PlayStation 2, I think that existed. And I'm not sure. I know less about the PlayStation in that regard, but I do remember there being some backwards compatibility with some major titles. And the reason that went away is because the next rev of the games, it's like, okay, we've got enough games out in the market, and we're not going to spend the extra. We're gonna pull out this some of these components that were needed for the backwards compatibility, and it's been out long enough that this does not need to be a feature, because on day one you don't want to be like, we've got 3 games for the Xbox 360 that you paid a few $100 for, so you can also play these old games too.
Yeah, Sony kind of ripped the Band-Aid off with the PlayStation 2 to 3 transition with regard to that.
No backwards compatibility?
There was a specific model that had some backwards compatibility, and it was really difficult to get your hands on, and for the most part, in theory, didn't exist. 3 to 4, there was no backwards compatibility. 4 to 5, there was no backwards compatibility. But what they did to get around it with 4 to 5, which kind of helped, I'd say kind of helped, maybe it didn't, but to me it helped, was they added additional features to other platforms that they offered, where instead of trying to offer backwards compatibility at the hardware level, they introduced like the PlayStation Now service, which would let you theoretically stream / download and play from a catalog of older games. So you didn't even have to own it previously. You just had this service and you could play select titles from PlayStation 1 forward. And they've done a good job of expanding that. Now, I still don't like that model, don't get me wrong, and I don't subscribe to it because I think it's bullshit. But I do like that they tried to address it in a way that actually does make more sense as you progress the hardware line forward. Because in theory, you'll have a PlayStation 10 at some point that with this service is independent of platform, and you could play anything from PlayStation 1 to 10 and not have to worry about any kind of hardware.
I was just thinking it would be, it would have been a nice thing. I'm sure that I'm certainly not the first person to think of this. I'm sure in the upper levels of upper management of planning these devices, in the product management meetings of these consoles, somebody came up with the idea. It was pitched that, all right, if you've got the disc from any game, you can download it onto the hard drive of your this could have been done in 2000. This could have been done 19 years ago with the Xbox 360, where we had the bandwidth for the games and the hard drive space was there. Download, I've got the game that I had that I really played the most on my Xbox was Winning 11, which is now Pro Evolution Soccer in the United States, by Konami. If you haven't played that game, I recommend it. It's one of the, I haven't had a new copy of that game in 14 years. So,
I have played a version of it. I don't remember which one, but it was more recent than 14 years ago.
Well, I have the copy from the last year that Thierry Henry played for Arsenal. So, it's, for me, I'll be forever 29 playing that game. I was just going to say, I got sidetracked, but it would have been great to take that disc and be like, okay, you've bought this copy. You can because you have a copy of the disc, download the game to your hard drive and play the game. You just have to have the disc as a as a physical license. And you said this in a show or two ago, but it's the disc as a physical license for the game. That would have been a great feature for consumers. I don't know if it's a great feature for companies that sell game consoles, but or companies that develop games and want you to buy them. But it would have been a great feature for consumers.
Yeah, given that they went as a different approach to leverage another subscription style model, I expect that became the better approach because it was a revenue driver. But at the same time, I can't really fault that, I don't think, because it's not just taking the game that you bought. It's if you subscribe to it, you have access to the entire catalog that's available on the service. So there is a value proposition that I think is a trade-off. It's, do we do, this individual game, or do we just say, well, no, we're not going to do that, but if you pay us, this fee, you can access anything in the library. I don't know which one I would say is actually better for the consumer. Like, that's one of those that I can make the case both ways.
It depends on the consumer.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
If you were like me, and I mean, if you'd given me, okay, here's your winning 11 box, cool, that's all I needed at the time. If I was paying, if the game that I bought was like, if you said, hey, you know what, pay us $40 more than you're paying for the game, and it's just a piece of, it's a hardware device that you connect to your TV, and the only game you can play is Winning 11, that would have been fine for me. But that is I'm confident that's an edge case. I'm an edge case in that regard. So did I have it? I had an Xbox 360 to play this game. Did I buy other games to play? I did. So I was playing other games, but that would have worked for me. The only reason I played other games is because I could. I was like, okay, this game looks interesting enough. I'll buy it and play it. Or this game's on. This game has been out for a few years. It's on sale now. I'll buy it and play it. I definitely did that. So I do think that for most users, there's a better value proposition in the subscription model that you described, which I wasn't even thinking about until you brought it up. But it also, because for like a moment I was thinking, oh, you could do both, but then no, that's not going to work because that confuses people. I thought I had this. Well, you don't have this. And so I can understand where it's like, yeah, there might be some people that, want to do it this way and other people want to do it that way. And each of them will get better, the one way versus the other is a better value to that particular individual or those groups of individuals. You've got to go with the version that most people are going to get value out of so that you don't have marketplace confusion.
Yeah, and I think the online play subscription add-on kind of thing illustrates that well, because, and I can't speak to the Microsoft one at this point, but for Sony...
Neither can I, because it's been... yeah.
But for Sony, it's, if I have any game that I want to play online, I have to pay a monthly subscription to do so. In order to make it a valuable proposition for me, in addition to that monthly subscription, or the ability to play online, they also provide 3 games a month for free as long as I maintain that subscription. Now, I don't get to choose the games. They get to curate those and decide what's available. But if I were to go back over the entirety of the time that I've had that monthly subscription and look at the games that have been provided, it's more than I would have spent if I had bought the games that I was interested in at any kind of retail price. Now, if I was not the type of person to buy games anyway, and I was, borrowing from friends or whatever else, it's not a very valuable proposition for sure, unless I very specifically wanted the online play component. But it at least tries to walk that line for what is good for the majority of people and provide a benefit that is useful enough that it's not just a waste of money if you're spending a month or two not playing an online game. I still don't like it either. Like, I don't like any subscription that kind of locks you into it in any way, which in this case Sony does by saying that the free games you can only have access to and play while you maintain the subscription. Even though they're added to your game library, if you cancel your subscription, you're no longer able to play them. To me, that's a problem. But at the same time, from a business perspective, I get it. It's just one of those things that I'm not going to completely agree with corporate decisions, but I can accept this particular trade-off.
Yeah, I can see if you're getting three games a month.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily 3 A-tier games either. It's
3 games.
Yeah, it might be a very small independent game that's one of those.
Like one of the games might be Overcooked.
Yeah.
So, which is a fun game. Like, don't get me wrong, that's a fun game. But I'm not like, it's one of those things that you play casually with maybe like some people just to like have a good time. And it's like, but I'm not, like I've had it for several years. I bought it like when my kids got a Switch for Christmas. I think bought it like the same day. So, and I don't know that we've ever gotten to like the 3rd level or whatever. So it's not, it's like I'm not, not chomping at the bit to complete the game. Well, heck, I haven't even finished Tears of the Kingdom. It's still incomplete for me. But, yeah, if you compare it to things like, okay, I can download, I have an Apple Music subscription, and I can download an album. And if I stop paying for that Apple Music subscription, I no longer gets to, listen to the downloaded music anymore. And that makes sense to me. So I feel like this is in the same vein as that. Same thing with movies. I'm paying to have access to the movies. So the fact that you get a free game, well, it's like you get access to these games while you own the subscription. So maybe the marketing isn't, or the advertising is a little problematic, but
well, I mean,
the model makes sense.
Yeah, to be fair, they do make it clear. Like it's not like anyone should ever expect that. Oh, hey, they're giving me a game, and then be surprised. It's
not like Apple.
Clear. Yeah,
it's not like Apple putting a U2 album on your iPhone without your consent.
Yeah,
like to go the opposite direction.
Right.
That didn't really bother me like it bothered some people, but I was like, I wasn't looking for this, but whatever. I just had a very whatever.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a ridiculous response for the outcry, but at the same time, I'm also one of those people that if you're giving me something for free, I don't care. I don't have to listen to it. And I do get that there's a step beyond that to actually adding it to your library if you're the kind of person that's really concerned about that extra piece, but you can just remove it from the library. Like I know. I never understood that outcry.
I don't know. I don't know if understand is the right word. It's like, it doesn't surprise me that there was that kind of response to that action, but also as soon as I saw that response, or even just heard like it's gonna be on your iPhone, automatically, I'm like, cool. But I was like, shouldn't this just be an opt-in thing where I go download it? But it's like, I can see where the decision was made. It's like, if we just put it on everyone's music library, then we don't have to worry about people being like, oh, I missed it, and then dealing with like, oh, I meant to get it and I did, because there's only a certain amount of time that there's always going to be a certain amount of time where it's like, well, YouTube needs to, they're going to want to make money on that album, so they're going to need people to buy it. But yeah, it's I can understand, I can see why they made that decision. A little bit weird, but it's not that, I don't think the outcry, I can understand why people are like, oh, I really dislike this, but I don't. It's like, okay, it's fine to dislike that, but don't get that upset about it.
Yeah. Honestly, it was more cringeworthy the way it was done on stage than the actual implementation.
I agree. So I got a question for you.
Okay.
Are you pre-ordering anything in the morning?
I'm still debating. So there was
Wow.
nothing.
Wow.
Yeah, there was nothing that made me really want to pre-order. Like just, oh, I have to have that. What I'm debating is with the things that I do currently, how much is that change with the camera workflow potentially worth upgrading? It's not so much that I think it's going to be revolutionary or anything else. It's the camera controls actually are a really nice thought from the perspective of a production standpoint. Because I already treat my phone basically as a camera that just has phone capabilities.
It's
So
a small computer with
that's
a phone app.
yeah. So I mean that's part of it. But then also access to 4K 120 is a really
That's
compelling thought.
Yep. That's the thing I thought, "Oh, I think Jesse might." Like
Well,
up
but
until that moment,
but
I
I
thought
also don't shoot anything other than 4K 60 at this point. So it's that's kind of the debate and toss up. It's like, well, I like the idea, but everything I do
but do
right
you need
now
it?
is not there.
Yeah.
And I will probably go ahead and upgrade anyway because it's just interesting enough to make me want to play with it. But I think it's really more a matter of that kind of play arena and not this is compelling enough to upgrade, if that makes sense.
It does. Um
I'm very
Anything else?
disappointed with the color choices though.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You can get black.
Oh,
And
that's what I will order if I order one.
I was gonna say I was gonna say I can't remember. It might have been John Gruber that was talking on the talk show. I can't remember if it was him or someone else, but they had a picture of one of the mock-up pictures of the supposed colors, and he showed it to his wife and said, "Which one of these colors would you pick?" And she picked the brown one, the new color. And apparently, the conversation that followed that on the podcast was that's the color that's in style at the moment. So
Yeah, I mean it doesn't surprise me. It's just if it's not blue, I don't care. I'm very I'm very one dimensional in my color choices
no,
for
I
the phone.
understand. I understand. You did Pacific Blue. You did. Did you do a? Did you get a 13? You did. You did gray on the 13, didn't you?
Yeah, I did the black or gray, whatever it was on
It
the
was.
13.
It was definitely a gray color. I don't remember the exact color, but it was definitely not black. And then the 14.
The
The
14
14
was a blue.
was the 14. There was weren't there two blues with the 14? Because I think we the last time we talked about the 14, we talked about, and I was like, no, no, and you're like, yeah, yeah, and you turned out to be right. So
Yeah, there might have been.
there was like a Sierra blue and some other blue. We're doing it again.
Yeah, we are. I'd have to go
So
back and look.
I'm very wrong about this. There was a silver, a space black, a gold, and a deep purple.
On the 14 or the 13?
14 Pro.
What was on the 13 then?
That was the one that had
The Sierra.
the silver, the graphite, the gold, the Sierra blue, and the Alpine green.
Okay. So yeah, I did not do the Sierra blue. That was the
It
one.
was too light.
Yeah.
You would have done the graphite, I bet.
Yes. And then, so the previous iteration would have been when I did the Pacific blue. And that's been, I swear I had another blue though. Maybe not. Maybe that was the only blue that I went with.
Well,
No, the 15.
the blue titanium.
The 15 has blue. Yes, that's the other blue.
Yes, it does.
And
I got both of those blues.
And I keep forgetting about it because I know I mentioned it on the show.
You got a
because
Max.
I went with the Max, halfway through the cycle, which has really fucked up my timetable.
And that one you got natural, correct?
Correct.
I'm not ordering anything tomorrow, but if I were, I would get it in white. I haven't had a white phone in a long time.
Yeah, I do not like the white.
I like it, and I like it now that it doesn't have that glossy stainless steel band around the side.
Yeah, I certainly understand that. I just don't like the white at the moment, and I don't know specifically what about it I don't like. I just don't like that implementation. Like for me, the toss up would be: do I continue with the raw titanium because that does look really good, or do I go with the black? And I kind of feel like I would go with the black. I think having the raw titanium for one model was enough for a little while.
Yeah, if the black is black enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
So some things that I found interesting. There was no. I think the Apple Watch update was fairly interesting. I think it's
Well,
been the
for the
well,
10,
I was going to say, I think for the standard watch, it's been the more interesting update in a while. But I was a little bit like, oh, there was no Ultra 3.
yeah, I was disappointed that the only change with the Ultra lineup was you could get the Ultra in black. Which, don't get me wrong, that is a really good looking black. I do appreciate that. But
I
there's
don't
no
think I
other
would get.
change.
Well, I mean, yeah, they did get the bands. They did get the band colors. Really, I think the band colors this year's are really nice.
So I went ahead and ordered. So Emily has a Series 4 watch, I think. So I did go ahead and order her a 10. She doesn't know
Oh
that,
wow!
but she doesn't listen to the show either. So no spoiler.
Hey Emily.
But I ordered her a 10 yesterday, actually. It'll be here after her birthday, but only by a couple of days. So I figured that'd be a nice birthday surprise.
Yeah, that is a cool birthday surprise. You could, put a copy of the receipt in a something or.
Oh yeah, I'll let her know
You'll
on her
do
birthday,
something.
just because otherwise she's potentially likely to finally break down and order one herself. And so I will make sure that doesn't happen because I don't want to pay for 2 Series 10s when we're only going to use one.
I was kind of annoyed by the. This is such a stupid annoyance, but I love the new colors of the bands. I thought they did really good with the colors, and then I was like, oh, and I'm a little bit annoyed by it because I bought I bought a few bands, and I don't want to buy another Alpine Loop, but because I don't wear it that much, unless I could sell my. It's my least favorite of the bands that I have, so. But I thought it was nice that they finally put in an actual metal band. I'm not sure if I like it though.
So when I was looking through the band choices when I ordered her 10, I wasn't real happy with the selection. But it's also because I was trying to look through it from the lens of what did I think she would order, and none of them quite fit the bill. And I think it's because she doesn't change bands, like, ever. It's whatever band she orders and goes with that she uses. And so it has to work for workouts and for casual wear and for non-casual wear. And there's just not a band that fits that use case from my perspective. From her perspective, there might be. So it might be something where, she orders another band after she receives the watch and is good and is happy and everything else. But like for me, the choices just weren't there. And it's because she prefers the rose gold finish.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think any of the newer bands matched it well enough that were useful in both a workout and non-workout setting. It's almost like you had to have 2 bands to really match. And so I went with the Cloud Blue or whatever it is, the hook and loop, sport loop closure band, because it was the most similar to what she's been wearing, with the complete expectation that she'll get it and decide to get whatever band she actually wants to use, and that one will never be used again.
Yeah, I was gonna say if it weren't for the Sport Loop, I don't think I would have worn the Apple Watch. So the fact that you let me borrow your sport watch with the sport band, that's what did it for me. I don't think I would have been able to persevere without that band. It makes a difference. It makes
It's
a
a
big difference.
really comfortable band for
Yeah.
sure.
And then
Go ahead.
I was gonna say the basically the ultra version of it, the Trail Loop, is even better.
Yeah, I would agree. And I've been really impressed with the Ocean bands. I know we mentioned it not too long ago. Like when I swapped to the Ocean band as my primary band, I only did it because we were in Florida. But since then, I haven't changed. Like it's
Oh
been
wow.
really comfortable to wear day in, day out. And I think they just got it right with the bands for the Ultra period.
I agree. I agree. I think the only thing that was missing is like a nicer band, which they added this year with the Milanese loop. Um, I don't know if the whole band is. It's it's not a terribly well, it's not a cheap band, but it's not a terribly expensive band, and I don't know if the whole thing is made out of titanium or not. But
It should be. So I have, when I bought the stainless steel 6, I think it was, I went ahead and bought a Milanese loop for it, and I liked it, but I also didn't like it. And the reason I didn't like it is that style chain, for lack of better phrasing, would catch hair more than I expected it to. And I've always liked the link bracelet style bands anyway. And so what I really want is the link bracelet for whatever watch I have.
yep,
But that's the one that is most cost prohibitive.
yeah, it's
And
$350.
yeah, and I can't justify that, even though that is the style band I would prefer to wear 24/7.
I don't know if I'd prefer to wear that 24/7. I think the trail loop is the one I wear. That's the one I wear the most. But I would like a link band for the Apple Watch Ultra, just for like I'm going somewhere a little bit nicer, and I would like to change the band to make it look a little nicer. And I did do that. So I bought a third party, an inexpensive third party color match band, and it's you can tell the grade of titanium is a lot lower than the one on the Apple Watch, because it's I don't wear it that much, and it's pretty obvious that it's been taken out of the box. But it's not so bad that it's like, oh wow, that looks really beat up. It does. You'd have to look at it closely to like as I'm wearing it. People aren't noticing.
Yeah, I think part of why I really like that style band is because as a former watch wearer or former normal watch wearer, I don't even know how you
Mm-hmm.
would refer to that at this point. As a
Dumb
previous
watch. It's
non-smart
a
watch
feature
wearer,
watch. A
yeah.
feature watch. A
But
timepiece.
but all of my other watches, my non-smartwatch watches, all of them had kind of that link style band, and so I got so used to it that that's just what was comfortable to me. And I would love to have a version of that link band that I could take from year to year without having any frustrations in how it looks or anything else, and be able to match the style watch that I used to wear with now wearing an Apple Watch instead. But it's also not that big a deal. I don't feel overly compelled to go get that band either. Part of that is price, sure, but part of it is the other bands have been comfortable enough and stylish enough that I am okay with the trade-off.
Mm-hmm. What I've kind of wondered is, um, I couldn't tell from the presentation that they had on Monday was, well, they showed with the Series 10 that in is it standby mode that they call it? But when the watch is not, when the display goes.
We will call it standby mode because I don't know that they have called out a different node or a different name for it.
But they specifically talked about, so if in standby mode, it used to be that the display would update every minute, and with the Series 10, is it the Series 10?
Yes, Series 10.
It will update every second, so you could actually have a second hand ticking away like a quartz watch. And I thought that was really cool. And I think that they showed that with the Apple Watch Ultra for one of the new faces that it will have. And it makes me wonder, is like, will that come to the existing Ultras?
I didn't pay attention to that, so that'll be an interesting thing.
And if it doesn't, like I'll let you know Monday, but if it doesn't, does that mean that there's something different in the hardware? I don't think so.
Well, and I mean, don't forget, I've been running developer betas for a while, and I don't remember seeing that, but I wasn't looking for it either. So I will
I'll
take
double
that as a takeaway.
Yeah, and I remember it being one of the faces that feels up, so maybe it is face specific because I don't know if it will update. Will it? So if that now I'm second guessing whether or not that is actually coming to the Apple Watch Ultra.
Well, they specifically mentioned it for the 10,
For
yes.
sure, it's
So,
for sure for the 10.
right.
But I feel like I remember seeing them showing the Apple Watch Ultra as well with a new face, and then they showed the one there's an Hermes version as well. That's the most cost prohibitive watch
Yeah.
band. I looked it up. It was like I can't remember if it's $449 or $549, but it's $50 more or less than $500.
And you're very much paying just for a name there, which I don't understand.
Yeah, because you know what? The materials that Apple uses are pretty high quality. I mean, you're paying, it's like I've seen third-party bands and I've used Apple bands, and there's a noticeable difference. So I haven't paid for expensive third-party bands, so or Apple priced, or in the same tier as Apple. But regardless, yeah, I don't know. It makes me wonder. It's like if you have an Apple Watch 2 Ultra, do you want? It made me think. Do you want blood oxygen sensor, or do you want update a display that updates every minute while in standby mode?
You mean every second?
Yes, that is what I
Um,
mean.
honestly, I would take the every second update over the blood
Me
oxygen
too.
sensor.
Me too.
Primarily because I have the blood oxygen sensor since I have the original version of the watch, and
I have it too because I got mine before they had to pull it out.
and I don't use it. I mean, I do every so often look at the data that it gets just because I'm that type of person that'll scroll through the data every so often, but I don't actually use it.
I've used the blood oxygen sensor more times to check if it's still there with updates when it was unknown than than I have because I wanted to know what my blood oxygen level was.
Well, and I think for me, it's the fact that it's not as accurate as a like finger clip-on pulse oximeter. So yeah, it's nice to have the data to have something to kind of judge things by, but it's not accurate enough to really mean anything unless it just wildly dips low.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, that's a.
So you're
I don't
not
know.
ordering new AirPods?
Well, see, I was waiting, and then there's no update to AirPods Pro.
I know that's why I had to laugh. Um,
So it's just like, no, probably not, because mine aren't unusable yet. I will wait until they become unusable.
so I don't remember when I talked about it. I know I mentioned it. Like I killed my AirPods Pro uh, at some point just with sweat and everything else working out. And so I already replaced those to a version that has the USB-C charging case. So for me, there's just no upgrade. I get that there are theoretically some other little tweaks that could be beneficial, but
Software features?
those aren't things that are useful for me anyway.
It kind of grinds my gears that they aren't, those software features aren't going to come to, if you already have AirPods Pro 2, like that they wouldn't allow you to update the firmware or whatever. Or whatever.
What did they confirm that that was not the case?
No, but I'm just making that assumption. Maybe because I guess the hardware being the same, I would expect it to come. Maybe it will come. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't
Well,
know.
that's the part because I obviously I didn't watch the AirPods piece anyway because I could care less about the current changes. There's just nothing that I need out of AirPods that I don't currently have. But is it the same hardware or is there an iteration of the chip between what was currently available and what's available whenever this version releases? Because there could be a different chip with everything else being the same, and that could be what enables the features. And this is just a scenario where I don't know whether there was a change or not in
I
chipset.
don't
So
I don't think so.
if not, then I would fully expect the features to
S-
come with an update.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's the same. It's the same chip.
Yeah, so I guess we'll find out when all the OSs release.
Yeah, and quite frankly, it might be just in iOS 18 that has the features. And so if you've got an AirPods Pro 2, it may not distinguish between, hey, you didn't buy them on the 20th of this month. So, um, I thought that AirPods Max update was interesting.
You change from Lightning to USB-C. You find that interesting?
I just find it interesting that there wasn't an update.
Okay. Just making sure I clarified in case somebody
Yeah,
listening didn't know that there was basically no real change.
like why did they wait this long to put USB-C on these? I mean, it's they made a color update and then they dropped the best color.
To me, it feels like the AirPods Max suffer from the same issues as like the Apple TV, where it's kind of a hobby, kind of not a hobby, sort of like the HomePod. To me, the HomePod is a ridiculously different device as well.
I think the HomePod's in the worst condition.
I would agree with that. I don't even use mine anymore.
Right. And I listened to Marco lament enough about it that I was like, oh, I'm not going to buy a HomePod. Like that's just as far as speakers go. That's not a thing I'm going to buy because you know what? Speakers should last decades. And when you're having problems playing audio out of your speakers that are less than half a decade old, I don't want it. You know what? There are the Apple hi-fis that play better. Are more reliable than HomePods, and there's at least a decade that separates them.
I mean,
decade and a half.
We've certainly talked about it before. Like I have actual speakers connected to receivers for both downstairs and upstairs. We've even mentioned it previously at this point on the show. The two HomePod minis that I have are downstairs. And originally, I was using them as the primary speakers for everything downstairs with the receiver and the speakers connected to the receiver as just kind of a backup. And it got to the point that it was so unreliable on connecting to the speakers that I just changed it. Now the HomePod minis are the backup that I never have to use because the other shit just works. And so the HomePod minis get the most use from my son coming down and asking Siri to turn on or turn off a light downstairs than anything else. And that is the only use case they currently have for the past 6 months.
I wonder, like AirPods Pro, whatever version, the first or the second, it's Grand Slam. Like, I see them in so many places. I use them. They're so useful. They pretty much rock solid. Every once in a while, one of them doesn't charge. But that could be because I need to clean out the hole that it drops down into. AirPods Max, it's like, how did the same company making the same kind of product, like audio listening product, personal audio listening product, just kind of like they didn't flunk, they didn't fail at it. I mean, I do. The only time I ever see them is when I'm flying somewhere. Like I only ever see them in the airport. I don't know anyone who owns them. I've only seen them in the airport, and I'm just like, they certainly failed on the case. The case is terrible, and I wouldn't even consider it because, while in some respects they look incredibly comfortable, I know that in other respects they're really heavy, and that's really uncomfortable. So, I think that they, with the ear cups, that was a great design, and I wish more companies design headphones with ear cups that are so easily replaceable. But yeah, overall it's like I'm just not that interested. especially at that price point.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know that I'm the target market for it anyway, but I consider it telling that I love my AirPods. When I decided to get a pair of over-the-ear headphones for different but very specific use cases, the AirPods Max never even crossed my radar. I picked up a
No,
pair of JBLs,
I have
and
some Sonys.
I don't regret my choice at all. Like, it's by far better than spending more than $100 on something.
Yeah, when I bought my, I don't remember even what the model is anymore. It's the sort of ubiquitous Sony MX whatever, or maybe that's the mouse. The Logitech mouse is the MX. I don't know. I bought the older version at the time because it was on sale, and I don't regret that. And it was before the AirPods Max came out, and when those were announced and the details shown, I was like, I still do not regret my choice. So, because the Sony headphones I have and the AirPods Pro that I have are the same as the AirPods Max.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's like, so by the time you take the AirPods Pro and the JBLs that I have, I'm still not at, or I might be right there at the max price. It's close. But then I didn't buy the JBLs until about a year ago. So the Max had been on the market. It just wasn't even a contender on my radar because it wasn't worth it. And I also upgraded the headphones within the past year that I use for monitoring for this, obviously, but for anything else where I want to, like with the production aspect, monitor stuff before I pipe it through speakers.
Mm-hmm.
And I ordered a pair of Bear Dynamics. And I very slightly considered for a moment getting the AirPods Max because you could plug them up. But then it was like, why would I do that? Like it's trying to take a product that doesn't really fit the use case and put it there just because I like aspects of it. Whereas these Bear Dynamics are ridiculously comfortable. I could wear them all day long if I wanted to. Audio quality is phenomenal, and it serves a wider range of use cases, and as opposed to what I would use the AirPods Max for, and it was still cheaper. Granted, there's no wireless option with those, but that's what the JBLs are for if I really want to.
Right. Because what you want in studio headphones is different than what you want for other over-the-air headphones for other use cases. Does Apple still own Beats?
Yes.
Okay, because I never hear about Beats ever anymore.
I still see a decent amount, probably just because I see clips from people competing at different tournaments and all, where you see a wide range of headphones anyway. And I think Beats still has a pretty strong athlete following in general.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why I see so much about them.
You're right. Honestly, the only times I have a friend who's got one of their earbuds, and I got to get onto him because he has an iPhone. I'm like, dude, I don't know, AirPods Pro. That's no, actually, I can't remember if he switched to AirPods Pro, but anyway, it's close enough. But I haven't seen like the Studio Pro or the Solo on a person out and about in a long time. I used to see them a lot like 10 years ago when not long after they were first released, before Apple owned them. I had a pair for a brief amount of time when they were still owned by Monster, or Monster was manufacturing them. I don't know what the deal was there, but I had the first revision, essentially.
I've never owned any Beats.
The audio quality is not great.
Well, the sound profile, the way or what they do, it just doesn't match what I want anyway. And we've talked about this before as well. It's funny, if you go around and you walk through the house and you look at all the different speakers and headphones and everything else, you see a really strong JBL presence in this house.
Well, they're
and
good
it's just
quality.
because it's a profile that I like for the use cases that I have. I have JBL reference monitors downstairs that I use for both audio and video production because I like the how accurate they are for those use cases. And then both downstairs and upstairs connected to the receivers. I have different year models of JBL speakers because my older ones I moved downstairs when I decided to put a newer complete set together before we moved here, but that's what's upstairs. And so, yeah, it's just that tends to be kind of what I gravitate toward. So it's either JBL or it's Bear Dynamic with the headphones, or it's Apple.
Yeah, yeah. I I I ended up. I don't recall all the different. I remember as a kid, I just had whatever Sony headphones that came with the walk, or I didn't even own a Walkman. Nope. I got to back up. Used my parents, and my sister got a Walkman before I did, like when we were little kids, and I'm like, oh, it's like, why did she get that for Christmas? Because I would use that more than she does, and I might have used it more than she did, because I borrowed it for sure. I just remember borrowing hers or my mom's Walkman, and until I got my own, which was when I was like 14 or something like that, and I got the best one. It was one of I don't know why I didn't. I don't know why I didn't get a CD player at the time. I didn't have any CDs as well. But I definitely I switched over to using in-ear or earbud type headphones, and they were Sony, and I really liked them. They sounded fine, you know. They it had the right around bass, mid, and high end, and that's what I didn't like about the Beats is they had two, like you said, the sound profile was did not match the type of music I listened to enough. And then I ended up having a problem with them, and I ended up getting them replaced. And the replacement I sold as a brand new item on Craigslist at the time. But I was like, if I was listening to a podcast on Monster Beats, which made no sense at all, in a certain range of speaking, you could hear rattling where something came loose inside one of the ear cups of the headphones.
Interesting.
I was just gonna say this got real boring. So
I think we missed our opportunities to find a good segue to an end point. We'll go back real quick. I didn't think about it with the iterations of the phone where you had different headphones instead of using Apple's wired earbuds. I did have both V-Moda and Ultimate Ears earbuds at a certain point in time, both being pretty much drastically better quality. But I remember with the V-Modas, I decided to get a set of V-Moda headphones after that because I liked the earbuds so much. So that would have been the other brand that has had a repeat occurrence in my household in general.
One of the best ones I had was Eddie-Motics, and the only reason I bought them is because I got a significant discount when they came to the Apple, when one of their reps came to the Apple store in 2009 or 10, and they were ever so slightly uncomfortable, but not too uncomfortable. Like it's like one of those things where it's like, oh, I put them in, they're uncomfortable, but it's like when you put your shirt on, you feel your shirt, and then after a few seconds, you don't feel your shirt anymore until it situates differently. It was that kind of like uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable for just a few seconds, and then if nothing changed, you were fine, and you could I could listen. I remember I'd be using them in the subway, which was a perfect place to use them because they were noise isolating headphones, and they really isolated the noise, and they blocked a lot of the like you're standing on the platform waiting on the train, they blocked out all of that noise, and that was really nice. But they actually broke down, like the materials broke down, like when some plastics get sticky and they start flaking off. That happened to them. But I can remember a day when there were just like at least half a dozen different brands, much less models, in the Apple store.
At this point, I think you'd be lucky to find a couple.
There are a couple. They're called AirPods, and they're called Beats. That's pretty much all you can get at the Apple Store. I don't think that you can get a third party.
I certainly haven't checked in quite some time. Obviously, my tastes also differ from what Apple would have allowed in the store anyway, most of the time.
Well, no, because I remember V-Motos being in the store. That was a thing.
So I was introduced to them directly via Apple, but
okay,
other like JBL might have had a particular version at some point available through the online store.
They were probably in and out.
Yeah, I don't remember them ever
time.
really being a fairly prominent feature. They tended to have a model that was available at like Target or Walmart or something that you could get that would be their entry level, but then you would have to go direct to them for their better model.
Their good stuff.
Yeah. And even that has shifted. Like at this point, I think you pretty much only get one or two models from them anymore anyway, if even that. But
well, I mean,
it doesn't matter because
the last 20 years has been
and their
corporate
earbuds are
consolidations
kind of shit anyway at this point. So, I mean, I say that they probably still do fine, but it's really tough to beat the integration of the AirPods. If you're an iPhone user.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say, just in general, and we've talked about this before. There's just been so much corporate consolidation and product consolidation. I mean, it's been not great for the marketplace, and there was a point in time where Apple needed third parties in the Apple Store, and that time has ended. I don't think it's. I think it is not so much bad on Apple as it is just a reflection of the times in all of corporate America. I don't think it's anti-consumer, but it's not great for the consumer.
I would agree with that. I think a lot of it is more that the third parties don't bring enough of a value to be featured as a partner. And I think that is more the byproduct of just where companies are.
Mm-hmm. It's a byproduct of the corporate landscape, or part of the corporate landscape, and it's it's also a thing where it's like I don't think about going to the Apple Store to buy non-Apple things. Like I even 15 years ago, or even farther back than that, 20 years ago, I wasn't thinking. It was kind of like, ooh, there might, it's like I wanted, what are those things called? I wanted some foam covers for the headphones that came with my iPod. That's what I thought about going to the Apple Store for, because I didn't know anywhere else you could get them. And, you overpay for them at the Apple Store, and then you find out, and then Amazon comes around and you can get, in 2010, you can buy like a pack of them. And if you lose one, you just put another one on because you got all the same color this time. And oh my God, I still have half a pack in 2024.
Yeah, I remember it used to be that I would look at what Apple offered either in-store or online just to get an idea for what manufacturers I would want to go look for. And then at some point, we'll say a decade ago, but it might have been longer than that, it was more a matter of I know what manufacturers I want to go to look for if they make this accessory to do this thing I want it to do, and not I want to see what Apple recommends as an accessory for it. Like,
I don't mind seeing what Apple recommends to get a starting point. Yeah. It's definitely been a shift. It's been a shitty shift. We have a number of different ways set up for you to get in touch with us to provide feedback, ask questions, or just comment in about something we've discussed.
You can hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at untitled_hosts, or shoot an email over to untitled.hosts@gmail.com.
Or get in touch directly with Jesse at jthart.com, or get in touch with me, John, via telepathy.
If you would like to support our work or are interested in listening to our new after show feed, head over to patreon.com/theUntitledPodcast and take a look at the options we have set up.
Thank you for listening.
We hope you've enjoyed the show.
And we hope to connect with more of you as we continue this journey.
That's a wrap.